Hello, I'm Dr. Aisha Munira Rashid from the Department for English, Aligarh Muslim University. I'm going to talk about one of the poems written by William Wordsworth. It was a part of his collection, the lyrical ballads, to which he contributed, and his friend Coleridge also did. The title of the poem is popularly known as Tintern Abbey, but the entire title is Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey on Revisiting the Banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13, 1798. First, I would like to talk about the form of the poem. This poem, Tintern Abbey, is a monologue in which the poet addresses himself, the spirit of nature, and sometimes his sister. Presence of nature is felt throughout the poem, and he is addressing nature directly, talking to nature and telling what association, what relationship he has with nature. And he talks to his sister also, who is like his friend, and he sees that she is also inspired by nature. She loves nature, and he finds that there is some affinity he has with his sister. This poem is composed in blank verse. This is a poem written in pentameters without rhymes. Somewhere, at some points, occasionally in this poem, the poet departs from pentameters because he has some lines which are not in 10 syllables. They are missing a few syllables, but they lend a beauty and charm to the poem. The imagery of the poem is primarily taken from nature. There are a few exceptions. One or two examples are taken from, for example, anchor. It is nautical, and mansion, which is architectural. This poem traces various aspects and stages of Wordsworth's relationship with nature. Since Wordsworth had a deep association with nature, so when he talks about it, throughout his life he had a very close tie with nature, and his association relationship with nature evolved from stage to stage throughout his life. This is a short poem. In this poem, he talks about his development, the development of his relationship with nature. This poem is marked with nostalgia as Wordsworth draws on his childhood memory in order to talk about his relationship with nature. He talks about his deep and passionate involvement with nature in this poem. Then I'll talk about the stages of poet's relationship with nature, how it evolved. The first stage is the poet's boyhood. Relationship with nature during his boyhood days is characterized by his complete identification and physical association with nature. In retrospect, when he's speaking in the poem, addressing his sister and nature, he thinks that in his boyhood he was one with nature, not a separate identity. He was ecstatic about all the natural phenomena around him and was struck by fear and awe vis-a-vis the spirit of nature. The second stage is the transitional phase of poet's admiration and awe for beauty of nature. It is marked by sensuousness. He feels, he senses, he admires and experiences all the natural phenomena with his senses and derives aesthetic pleasure from the beauty of the natural phenomena found around him. He can see this kind of enthusiasm and this kind of pleasure being felt right now by his sister, and he tells her that I can see my old form, my old self in you, while you have wild ecstasy, wild pleasure, and you have you are responding to nature in the same manner that I did in the past. For this, we can refer to line 15 to 120. The third stage, which is the maturest stage of the poet's relationship with nature, is a transcendental and metaphysical stage when the poet can emotionally, since he finds that the nature provides him with the balm to which can heal all the problems, all the hurt that he gets from from this world because of people's selfish behavior. And he draws moral lessons also. Morally also, he's inspired by nature. He's guided by nature when he thinks that nature tells him, guides him to the right path, and tells him how to behave with people in the best possible manner, despite all the hardships and the meanness that he comes across in day-to-day life in his urban setup. He also is associated with literature, with nature here, philosophically and spiritually. He connects with nature in an inseparable way. And especially in its absence also, he can hear, he can see, he can feel nature in all its beauty and hues, giving him guidance and telling him the real meaning of life. Now, at this stage, when he has become very mature in his relationship with nature, it is no more just a physical tie that he enjoys between himself and nature, but rather it is a philosophical guidance. It is something philosophical and metaphysical that he's getting from nature. He thinks that he can hear, when he thinks about nature, nostalgically sitting in his urban house, he can hear the still sad music of humanity thinking about nature. From here we are naturally led to Wordsworth's philosophy of pantheism. How nature becomes important in his life. He almost deifies nature. We see that he thinks that there is oneness, there is unity in all forms of living organisms as well as inanimate objects in this universe, in this planet, especially that we occupy. Pantheism, of course, means finding one spirit, which we call divine spirit or God, permeating all the objects, all human thoughts, actions, various manifestations of nature. And they're all one and divine. It is evidence in the words of Wordsworth, a motion, a spirit that impels all thinking things and rolls through the things. So for Wordsworth, nature is something that he worships, and he finds divine existence in nature, and he thinks that the spirit that permeates all the human beings, human thoughts, actions, and various forms of nature is one, and it is something sacred and divine to him. This poem summarizes his philosophy of nature, of pantheism quite well. Thanks for watching.